Hello, my dear friends. This is Michelle Burton, and tonight, I want to speak to you heart to heart. Not as a teacher, not as a preacher, but as a traveler, a witness, a soul who has seen more of this world than I ever thought I would. I have walked through deserts where silence feels alive. I have stood in old cathedrals, where candles tremble before unseen winds. I have watched sunsets dissolve into strange horizons, carrying with them whispers of things that have not yet happened, but will. My life has been a pilgrimage of stories. Stories of those who saw beyond the veil, who touched death and came back burning with light. And here on this channel, Near Death Diaries, we gather those stories. We walk that narrow bridge between life and eternity, between what is seen and what is coming. So, my dear friend watching this right now, take a breath. Because tonight's story is not just another story. It's a warning wrapped in mercy. It's a prophecy whispered through generations. A mystery that has made saints tremble and skeptics fall silent. Today, we are diving deep into a revelation that echoes from the book of Exodus to the visions of saints. A message that has crossed centuries, oceans and souls. It is called, the 3 Days and Nights of Darkness. Now, before you turn away, listen carefully. This is not a message of fear. This is a message of preparation, of mercy, and of hope. Because only those who understand the meaning of darkness can truly appreciate the gift of light. So if you are new here, I invite you, kindly, to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Not for vanity, not for numbers, but because what you're about to hear might change how you see time itself. How you see the sky. How you see the silence before dawn. Now let me ask you something. What if one morning, the sun didn't rise? What if the world you know, every street, every voice, every color, was swallowed in total darkness? 3 days. 3 nights. No light. No sound. Only the beating of your own heart. And the question, have I been ready? Would you know what to do? Would you remember the words of Scripture? Would you believe that this, too, was written long ago? Stay with me till the end of this video. Because by the time we reach the final words, you will understand what the 3 days of darkness truly mean. And what happens after them may shake your soul to its core. Do you remember the story of Egypt, my friend? The ancient land where kings built monuments to eternity. And yet, eternity came to humble them. It was there, long before our calendars began, that something unspeakable happened. A darkness fell. The book of Exodus calls it the 9th plague. A shadow that covered the empire for 3 full days. A darkness so thick, the scripture says, they could not see one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. Exodus 10 verses 21 to 23. Imagine that for a moment. No morning light creeping through the curtains. No glow of fire. No whisper of dawn. Just blackness. Heavy living, absolute. Even the air seemed to lose its shape. Even the breath of the people trembled in their chests. The Egyptians cried out, but no sound carried. The streets that had once been filled with markets, laughter, and trade, turned to tombs of silence. And yet, in the homes of the Israelites, light remained. A holy separation. The chosen could still see. The faithful were still guided. Now tell me, my dear friend, was that only history? Or was it a rehearsal for something greater to come? Many believe that ancient darkness was not merely judgment, but prophecy. A shadow cast forward through time, waiting for its reflection in our age. A warning that what was, will be again. Because what is prophecy, if not history repeating itself under the gaze of heaven? Every generation thinks it has reached its peak of power, until the light begins to dim. And I wonder, could we be standing on the edge of our own 9th plague? Could a spiritual eclipse already be drawing near, not one of nature, but of the human soul? When I first heard this prophecy of the 3 days and nights of darkness, I dismissed it as legend, one of those old apocalyptic tales whispered in dusty monasteries. But then, during my travels, I began to notice patterns. Whispers in different tongues. Visions from people who had never met, yet spoke the same message. The day will come when the sun hides its face. I remember an old priest in a small village outside Florence. His eyes were cloudy with age, but when he spoke of the coming darkness, they gleamed like glass reflecting fire. He told me, "Child, the world will forget what night feels like, until it swallows them whole." And then he added, "But those who keep their light within will not be lost." His words stayed with me. They echoed against my heart for years, like footsteps in a long corridor. And then, I found the same warning written in other places, hidden between verses, etched in prophecies, sung in psalms. It was always there, the rhythm of an approaching silence. A divine night. Some say the 3 days of darkness will be the final purification, a cleansing of the earth before renewal. Others say it is symbolic, a spiritual blindness that must fall before awakening. But whichever way you see it, the essence remains the same. There will come a time when the world is covered in shadow. And in that silence, every heart will be measured by its flame. Think about it. Darkness, the one thing no man can command. We can build lights, cities, empires, but we cannot stop the sky from turning black. Perhaps the real meaning lies there, in our helplessness. Because in the dark, pride dies. In the dark, faith is tested. In the dark, we see what light truly means. The people of Egypt didn't just lose the sun, they lost certainty. They lost the illusion of control. For the first time, kings and slaves shared the same blindness. Every breath became a prayer. Every sound, a warning. Now, can you imagine if that happened today? A world that never sleeps. Silenced. Screens dead, cities still, hearts racing in the absence of light. Could humanity survive 3 days without seeing its own reflection? Could we remember how to pray when no voice answers back? I ask you, what if history is not a story we leave behind, but a mirror waiting in front of us? What if that darkness was never gone, only patient? I've stood beneath skies that felt strange, where the sun dimmed for no reason, where animals grew silent though it was noon. And in those moments, something inside me whispered, remember Egypt. Because maybe the real plague is not what covers the land. Maybe it's what covers the heart. When truth is no longer wanted, when faith is treated as foolishness, when love grows cold, the darkness begins. Not from the heavens, but from within us. You see, light is not a luxury. It's a covenant. And when humanity breaks that covenant, the earth itself responds. So yes, my dear listener, I believe the ancient shadow was a message. A foreshadowing of what we must face once more. The same silence, the same reckoning, the same divine pause. But this time, not over one nation. Over all. Because prophecy is never confined by geography. It moves like wind, invisible, inevitable, unstoppable. And those who have eyes to see will recognize its signs long before the world admits they are there. I often wonder in those 3 days, what the Israelites felt, huddled inside, hearing the cries outside their doors. Did they tremble? Did they pray? Did they dare to open their windows just to see if the darkness was real? And I think of us, so confident in our technology, our science, our lights that never go out. Would we believe it when it comes? Or would we call it a glitch, a storm, an eclipse? Anything but what it truly is. A reminder from the one who commands both light and shadow. The 9th plague was not just punishment. It was mercy. A final chance before liberation. Before deliverance. Before freedom. The darkness came before the dawn of a new covenant. And so I ask again, can history repeat itself? Or has it already begun? Because sometimes the prophecy doesn't arrive like thunder. Sometimes it begins quietly, like a sunset that never quite returns. When I left you a moment ago, we stood together in that ancient silence, the silence of Egypt, heavy with the weight of God's breath. But the story did not end there. That shadow, that thick living darkness, did not stay buried beneath the sands of time. It lingered. It moved. It whispered its warning into the ears of those who could still hear the language of heaven. And so, through the centuries, the same message surfaced again and again. Not in history books, but in hearts. Spoken not by rulers or scholars, but by visionaries, mystics, and saints whose souls had brushed the hem of eternity. I began to trace their voices, like constellations across time. Each one a spark in the same dark sky, pointing toward the same revelation. And the more I listened, the clearer it became. This prophecy was not a myth. It was a pattern. A rhythm. A divine pulse echoing through the ages. Let me take you back to the 19th century. In Rome, there lived a woman named Blessed Anna Maria Taigi. A mother, a mystic, and a soul so transparent that even the clergy trembled in her presence. She was said to see in her spirit a sun, a luminous globe before her eyes, in which all things were revealed, the past, the present, and the yet to come. And in that divine light, she saw something terrible. 3 days of night that would fall upon the earth. She said it would be a darkness so dense that one could not see the hand before the face. And that during those days, the air would be infected by demons, appearing in all horrible forms. Only those who remained in their homes, praying, with blessed candles burning, would be preserved. Her words were not born from hysteria, but from revelation. She spoke them with the calm of one who had already seen. And her prophecy was written down by priests who wept as they listened. Decades later, another voice rose. Padre Pio, the saint of the stigmata, whose wounds bled with Christ's own sorrow. He too spoke of the coming darkness. He wrote in a letter, "Keep your windows well covered. Do not look out. Light a blessed candle, which will suffice for many days. Pray the rosary. Be not curious of the sounds from outside, for those who listen will perish." Do you hear it, my friend? The same rhythm, the same echo, the same divine pattern. From Tyge to Pio, from cloisters to cathedrals, one unbroken whisper carried by faith itself. And they were not alone. Through France, Spain, Poland, Ireland, across every century, came men and women who claimed to see the same vision, a world cloaked in total shadow. The moon turned red as blood. The stars vanished from the sky. The very air thickened with sorrow. It is as if God himself wrote the same message in different tongues, knowing that time would try to erase it, but the Spirit would remember. And as I read these accounts, I found myself trembling, not in fear, but in recognition. Because somewhere deep within, it felt familiar. Not as a story, but as a memory. As if the human soul has always known that one day, light would withdraw, not to abandon us, but to measure us. Scripture itself confirms what these souls saw. The prophet Joel once wrote, "The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord." Joel 2 verse 31. A verse written thousands of years before Padre Pio ever walked the earth. Thousands of years before Anna Maria Tyge fell to her knees. And yet, the same vision, the same message. Time collapsing into a single truth. When I first read Joel's words, I felt a chill deeper than any cold I've known. Not from fear but from realization. Because prophecy is not a prediction. It is remembrance of what God has already seen. Time to him is not a line. It's a circle. And in every generation, he leaves signs. The same melody played in different keys. I began to gather these voices like relics. In dusty monasteries, I found letters, fragile with age, their ink faded but their meaning sharp as glass. Each one described the same scene. A sudden stillness. A sky that grows dark at noon. A terror that silences even the birds. And then, the command to stay inside, to pray, to trust. To not look out, for what walks in that darkness is not meant for human eyes. And then, as I read deeper, I began to notice another pattern. A tenderness hidden beneath the terror. Because in every message, there was also a promise. A promise that those who held to faith, who clung to prayer, who kept the light of love within, would not only survive, but be transformed. Blessed Anna Maria said it clearly. After the darkness, the air will be purified, and the earth renewed. A rebirth after the shadow. It struck me then, that the darkness is not just punishment. It is mercy wearing a terrible mask. It is the pause before creation begins again. Do you see it? From Egypt to Rome, from prophets to mystics, the story never changes. Darkness descends. The faithful endure. And then, light returns. Brighter. Purer. Closer to the divine. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I imagine Anna Maria and Padre Pio standing on opposite shores of eternity, looking across the ages at one another, nodding, as if to say, yes. The message reached her. The warning lives on. And I wonder, if these saints were alive today, would they recognize our world? Would they look at our endless screens, our sleepless cities, our restless hearts, and say, yes, the time draws near? The truth is, prophecy doesn't fade. It waits. It waits until a generation grows deaf to the sacred, and then it rises like a tide, whispering again. That is what this 3-day warning has become. A mirror reflecting not just the wrath of heaven, but the weariness of earth. Because every time the world drowns in its own noise, God speaks again through silence. Through darkness. Through those few who still dare to listen. I often think of Joel's words when the sky turns red at dusk. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood. And I realize, the signs are not coming. They are already here. The question is no longer when, but who will still believe when the darkness falls? The question still lingers in the air. Why does God allow the darkness? Through the centuries, prophets have warned, mystics have wept, and believers have prayed. Yet the question remains, trembling on human lips like a candle before it dies. If the Creator made light with a single word, why does he sometimes choose silence instead? Why does he let the sun disappear? I've thought about this for years. In my travels, from the stone chapels of Spain to the rain-soaked villages of the East, I've met souls who carried this question like a cross. Some feared the darkness. Some welcomed it. And some understood it. Because the darkness, my friend, is not the enemy. It is the threshold. It is the pause between breath and resurrection. It is not the death of light. It is the testing of it. Think about it. Before every dawn, there is always an hour when the night grows thicker, heavier, almost unbearable. Nature itself seems to hold its breath. Even the stars seem to retreat, as if to make room for the new light that must come. And so it is with the soul. Darkness comes before transformation. Perhaps that is what the mystics meant all along. That the 3 days and nights are not just events written in prophecy. They are the inner pilgrimage of every believer. Because we all must face the night within us before the light can return. You see, the absence of light is not a curse. It is a calling. A divine intervention disguised as silence. When the world goes dark, when answers vanish, when prayer feels like shouting into emptiness, that is when heaven listens most closely. That is when God begins his hidden work. Because he does his deepest miracles not in daylight, but in shadow. I remember sitting once in a monastery perched high in the Carpathian Mountains. The monks there lived without electricity, by choice. At night, their entire world glowed only by the trembling light of oil lamps. And I asked one of them, an old man with eyes like still water, "Doesn't the darkness ever frighten you?" He smiled. He said, "Child, the dark is not empty. It is full of God." His words struck me like a thunderclap wrapped in peace. Because I realized, darkness is not the absence of God. It is the canvas on which his mercy paints the new creation. Every time humanity forgets, every time pride blinds us, every time love grows cold, darkness descends. Not as punishment, but as purification. Like a surgeon's shadow before healing begins. In the book of Genesis, before there was light, there was darkness. Before the "let there be," there was silence. And even then, the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep. He was there, hovering, waiting, preparing the light to be born. So maybe the 3 days of darkness are not just the end. They are the beginning again. A sacred reset. A divine pause so the world can breathe before it breaks. What if those 3 days are meant not to destroy us, but to strip us, of illusions, of idols, of the noise we mistake for truth? What if, in the silence, we finally hear what has been speaking all along? And so I ask you, my dear friend, when the world goes dark, what kind of light lives in your soul? If all candles burned out, if the stars themselves fell, what flame would remain inside you? Would your heart still shine? Because the true light of God was never meant to depend on the sun. It was planted deep within us, hidden like a secret ember that the world cannot extinguish. And sometimes, only darkness can reveal it. When everything external is taken away, when there's no comfort left, no power, no sound, then we see what truly sustains us. Then faith stops being an idea and becomes survival. Then hope is no longer poetry. It becomes breath. Perhaps that is why God allows the night, to show us what can still burn when everything else fades. Because a faith that shines only in sunlight has never been tested. But a faith that glows in the pit of shadow, that is the faith of saints. Even Christ himself knew that darkness. On the cross, as the sky turned black at midday, he cried, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" And yet, in that cry, he was never closer to fulfilling his purpose. The darkness did not defeat him. It revealed him. It showed the world that even when heaven seems silent, God's plan still unfolds in perfect precision. And so the 3 days of darkness, prophesied, dreaded, misunderstood, are not a punishment from a cruel God, but a purification from a loving one. A divine intervention so complete that only those anchored in light will remain unshaken. I sometimes wonder if this prophecy is also a mirror to our times. We live in an age of artificial light, constant brightness, unending noise. We fear the dark because we no longer know silence. We cannot hear God because we never stop speaking. And maybe heaven allows darkness not to harm us, but to heal us, to silence the chaos, to remind us of what truly matters. When the lights go out, when the world stops, when all we have is the echo of our heartbeat and the memory of our prayers, then we remember who we are. Children of the light. Reflections of a flame that cannot die. Do you feel that, my friend? That stirring in your chest as you listen? That trembling awareness that the words I speak are not just prophecy, but invitation? Because this is what the mystics meant when they spoke of the darkness. It is not only coming for the world, it comes for every soul seeking transformation. And when it does, we must not flee from it. We must enter it, like Christ entered his tomb. For even the tomb, in its blackness, was holy ground. And out of that ground the resurrection was born. Darkness is not the end. It is the womb of dawn. It is the silence before the first note of the new song. It is the last shadow before the light of eternity. And that, my dear listener, is what the prophecy has been trying to tell us all along. The 3 days are not just an event in time. They are the soul's initiation. They are the sacred pause between the world we have ruined and the world God will renew. So when the skies turn dim, when fear grips the earth, remember this. You were not made to curse the dark. You were made to carry the light through it. Let that truth settle in your bones. Let it live there. Because one day when the night does come, whether it be the world's or your own, you will remember these words, and you will not be afraid. Because the light within you was never meant to flee the dark. It was meant to transform it. There comes a time, dear friends, when prophecy no longer belongs only to ancient scrolls. It begins to echo through ordinary lives. Through dreamers, mothers, priests, children. Voices trembling in the night with messages they never asked to carry. The same message. Whispered again and again. A darkness is coming. Be ready. It's strange, isn't it? How the same warning has surfaced across centuries, across continents, through people who never met, who spoke different tongues, who prayed in different ways, yet somehow saw the same thing. 3 days. 3 nights. A silence that covers the world. I used to think these were only legends, until I began to meet the witnesses. Not the grand or famous, but the quiet ones, the ones with weary eyes that have seen too much. Their stories shook me to my core. I remember one woman in Venezuela. Maria Esperanza they called her. She was known for visions of the Virgin, of coming trials and mercy intertwined like light and shadow. People gathered around her not because she promised comfort, but because her words carried the scent of eternity. She spoke of a time when humanity would forget its creator, and the earth itself would cry out. The rivers would rebel, the skies would dim, and an unseen hand would draw a veil over the sun. Not as punishment, she said softly, but as purification, because man must return to the Father. Her prophecy was not wrapped in fear, but in sorrow. A mother's sorrow for a child that has wandered too far. And when I heard her voice, that trembling tender certainty, I felt something awaken in me. Not terror, but recognition. As though somewhere deep within my spirit, I had already known this truth all along. She wasn't alone. Another voice, Luz de Maria, from Argentina, carried the same flame into the modern age. Her writing spoke of celestial warnings, of angels revealing to her the approach of divine justice, clothed in mercy. She described the sun dimming, a coldness spreading, an invisible shadow blanketing nations. She saw families locking themselves indoors, candles flickering while prayers trembled through trembling lips. And she wrote of it not as myth, but as certainty. A mercy-filled act, the last call before renewal. Children, she said in one of her messages, when the firmament grows dark, close your doors and do not gaze outside. The light of Christ will be your shelter. When I first read those words, I felt the air in my room grow still. It was as if time itself paused to listen. Because there was power in them, not the power of fear, but of truth remembered. Something ancient, reborn. But it wasn't just the visionaries of Latin America. From Italy to Nigeria, from small convents to mountain hermitages, I found the same refrain, a call to repentance, to vigilance, to readiness of soul. Ordinary people describing extraordinary glimpses. Dreams of skies gone black. Of the world holding its breath. Of voices crying, Do not fear, for those in grace will not perish. Some say these are only coincidences. Mass hysteria. But can so many hearts imagine the same night? Can so many voices speak the same warning across centuries and never have touched one another? No, my friend. There is a pattern here. Divine, deliberate, unmistakable. It's as though heaven has been speaking one sentence, broken over time, waiting for this generation to finally listen. When I first began to study these prophecies, I could not sleep. Not because I was afraid of the dark, but because I began to realize how asleep we have all been in the light. We think ourselves safe because the sun still rises, the markets still open, the cities still hum. But prophecy does not wait for convenience. It arrives when humanity least expects, when hearts are heavy with pride and comfort. And that's why in Matthew 24 verse 42, Christ's words cut through the centuries like lightning. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. Watch. That word is everything. It doesn't mean to stare in fear. It means to stay awake. To live alert. To see through illusion and recognize the hour when heaven draws near. Because we do not know the hour, and yet the signs are whispering all around us. I remember a man I met in Fatima. Not a priest, not a pilgrim, but a simple gardener who tended the grounds. His hands were stained with soil, his eyes deep with years of prayer. He told me he once had a vision as he worked beneath the olive trees. The air around him grew cold, he said, though the sun was bright. He heard a voice, gentle but firm, say, "There will come a day when light itself will rest, and man will see his soul as I see it." He fell to his knees, trembling, not from fear but from awe. He said he saw for a moment every soul in the world as a candle. Some burning bright, some flickering weakly, some already extinguished. And he knew then that when the darkness comes, only the inner flame would matter. That story never left me. Because it wasn't prophecy in theory, it was prophecy in flesh. It was the divine speaking through dirt-covered hands, through an old man who knew the earth and yet had glimpsed heaven. Over the years, I've collected hundreds of these testimonies. Stories whispered, recorded, written in tears. Different faces. Same message. Each one a shard of light pointing to a single truth. The 3 days of darkness are not superstition. They are a mercy foretold. A divine pause before the storm of renewal. Some spoke of earthquakes. Others saw fire raining from the sky, cities swallowed by silence, the air itself thick with sorrow. Yet in every vision, there was also protection. Homes aglow with blessed candles, families praying together, angels standing guard at unseen doors. The light of Christ preserved them. The same light that lives, even now, in you and me. I once asked a theologian what he thought of all this. He smiled, though his eyes betrayed gravity. Prophecy, he said, is not given to frighten us, but to remind us. God warns because he loves. He shouts before judgment so that mercy may still be chosen. And those words, they pierced me. Because I realized that all along, heaven has been warning not to terrify, but to awaken. Not to destroy faith but to deepen it. You see, prophecy is not the thunder. It's the whisper before it. It's the breath of wind before the storm. It's the voice that says, be ready, not because disaster is fated, but because redemption is near. And that is the tone of every true warning I've encountered. Urgency wrapped in compassion. Judgment intertwined with mercy. Fear swallowed by hope. The darkness they speak of is not only a cosmic event, it is also the mirror of our times. Have we not already seen the light fading in hearts? Have we not seen truth buried under noise, love grow cold, faith replaced by convenience? The prophecy is not far. It is here, unfolding quietly in the moral night that has already begun. And yet, the message remains the same. Watch. Do not sleep through the divine hour. Do not be caught unready. Keep your lamp lit. For in the blink of an eye, the skies may change, and the time of mercy will give way to the time of awakening. And so I ask you again, not as a preacher, not as a scholar, but as a fellow traveler through this fragile world. What would you do if the sun did not rise tomorrow? Would your faith still burn? Would your soul still sing in the dark? Because prophecy, my dear friend, is not about knowing the date. It's about preparing the heart. It's about remembering that the light of God is not in the sky above us, but in the spirit within us. That light, and only that light, will endure when the world sleeps beneath its 3 nights of silence. Before the darkness, there will be signs. Not in hidden corners, but in the open heavens. In the sky that has watched us since the dawn of creation. Strange things will begin to stir. The earth will shudder as if remembering something ancient. The seas will roar, and the stars will tremble in their places. And those who walk in pride will call it coincidence. But those who watch, those who feel, will know. The prophecy says that before the 3 days, the world will change its rhythm. There will be a deep unrest, a kind of spiritual unease that cannot be silenced. A heaviness in the air, like the moment before a storm when even the birds fall quiet. Many will feel it without understanding why. They will say, "Something's wrong." They will sense it in their bones, that trembling whisper of the unseen, as if creation itself is holding its breath. And then, the signs will begin. It will start with the sky. The heavens will speak. There will be strange celestial displays, blood-red moons that refuse to fade, stars falling like tears, lights dancing where no light should be. The scripture says in Joel 2 verse 31, "The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord." And in those days, science will try to explain it. They will give names, eclipses, flares, magnetic storms. But deep inside, people will know, this is not nature's doing. This is the voice of God, calling creation back into order. Earthquakes will follow, one after another, in places where no fault lines lie. Waters will rise. Mountains will groan. And humanity, restless and divided, will turn against itself. Nations will rage, leaders will stumble, and the language of peace will turn to ash. It is then, amid that chaos, that the stillness will come. Ah yes, the stillness. It will not be peace. It will be a pause. The kind of silence that comes when heaven is about to act. The winds will stop. Birds will disappear. The hum of cities will fade. It will feel as though time itself has been suspended, as though the earth is holding its breath for judgment. And then, without warning, it will begin. The sun will vanish. The moon will bleed out. The stars will blink away one by one, like dying candles. And humanity will stand beneath a sky that no longer remembers morning. No dawn. No twilight. No shadow. Only void. It will be as if creation itself has turned inward, mourning. The light will retreat not just from the sky, but from the hearts of men. Isaiah 60 verse 2 will come alive before our very eyes. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. But in that moment, my friend, only those whose hearts are anchored in him will stand unshaken. The mystics spoke of what to do then. They said, when the darkness descends, seal your doors. Close your windows. Do not look outside. For what moves beyond your walls will not be human. You will hear voices. Voices that sound familiar. Voices that call your name. Voices that imitate the loved ones you lost, begging, pleading, weeping, saying, "Let me in." But do not open. For the saints have warned, those are not the living. Those are the echoes of despair. The shadows of the fallen. The spirits who wander in the night, seeking one last soul to deceive. And even the faithful will tremble, because the darkness will be alive. It will breathe. It will move. And those who dare to peer into it will see what the human eye was never meant to see. The only light that will burn in those hours will be the light of blessed candles. No fire from the earth will last. No electricity. No flame born of man's invention. Only what has been sanctified will pierce the gloom. And that light, oh, that light will be holy. It will not only illuminate rooms, it will guard souls. For wherever that sacred flame burns, angels will stand watch. They will mark the faithful, those who trusted even when sight was taken from them. But outside, there will be wailing, cries that shake the ground, the sound of wind rushing though no air, the moaning of the earth itself as the weight of sin is purged. It will be the sound of the world being reborn through agony. They say during those days, even animals will hide. The air will grow dense and strange. Some will hear the roar of unseen armies. Others will feel an invisible hand press upon their chest. Every sin unconfessed, every pride unbroken will rise to the surface, demanding reckoning. And yet, in the homes of the faithful, there will be stillness. Frightened hearts, yes, but also peace. Families huddled together, praying, singing softly, holding rosaries or scripture close to their chests. Because they will know, this darkness is not forever. It is the labor pain of a new dawn. The first day will feel endless. The second, unbearable. And on the third, many will begin to think the sun will never return. But in that third dawn, when despair has reached its final note, there will come a whisper of light. A faint glow on the horizon. A warmth that begins not in the sky, but in the soul. It will be as though the heavens themselves exhale. And then, the light will return. When the first rays pierce the horizon, the earth will look different. The air will be pure again. The colors sharper. The silence softer. But many will be gone. Only those who clung to faith through the night will rise to see the new day. It will be the rebirth of the world. A smaller world, yes, but one that has remembered its maker. And the prophecy says, the survivors will fall to their knees in tears, not because of fear, but because of awe. They will understand what it means when Scripture says, the Lord shall arise upon thee. Because they will have seen what it means when he hides, and what it costs to find him again. I often wonder how many will believe before it begins. How many will laugh it away? How many will call it madness, myth, or metaphor? And yet, I do not tell you this to frighten you. I tell you this because love warns. Because mercy always sends a message before the storm. And if this prophecy is true, even partly true, then it is not meant to destroy us, but to awaken us. To remind us that light is a covenant, not a convenience. And the time to keep that covenant is now. If you find yourself in that hour, remember this. Do not fear the night. The darkness will come, yes, but it will pass. And when it does, the world will see the face of mercy unveiled. A dawn unlike any that has ever been. For the night belongs to the Lord. And even when the sun hides its face, his light never fades. When we speak of prophecy, dear friend, we must not stop at the warning. A prophecy without preparation is like a door left open in a storm. It is not enough to know what is coming. We must become ready for it. And readiness is not built in fear. It is born in faith. Because if the darkness will test every soul, then the preparation must begin long before the shadows fall. Not in panic, not in dread, but in surrender, the kind that cleanses, quiets, restores. I have learned, through my travels, that every place has its own kind of light. In deserts, it is harsh and ancient. In mountains, it is patient and strong. But the purest light, the one that cannot be dimmed, is the one that lives within a soul that has made peace with heaven. And that is what this prophecy is truly asking of us, to make peace with heaven. Before the night comes. Before the sun hides. Before the doors must be sealed. Start where all healing begins, with repentance. Not the hollow kind that comes from fear, but the real kind that flows from love. Confession is not a ritual. It is a homecoming. It is the moment the heart says, I want to return. Speak your truth before God, even if your voice trembles. Lay down the weight of guilt, the shadows of pride, the quiet habits that have kept you numb. There is no judgment in his listening. Only mercy. Because mercy is the only light that will not flicker when the world grows dark. And prayer. Oh, prayer. Do not think of it as words. Think of it as breath. When the darkness falls, it will be your oxygen. When fear whispers outside your door, prayer will remind your soul who you belong to. It is not about saying perfect phrases. It's about keeping the line open between you and heaven. A whisper is enough. A tear is enough. Even silence, if offered with love, becomes a prayer. And acts of mercy. Do not forget them. Each act of kindness, each moment of forgiveness, each time you choose compassion instead of anger, it becomes a shield, invisible but real. It will stand before you in the day of trial. Because the darkness fears mercy. It cannot dwell where love abides. So feed the hungry. Forgive those who wounded you. Bless even the ones who curse you. These are not small things. They are eternal ones. When the world trembles, it will not be wealth or knowledge or status that saves us. It will be the quiet ones, those who loved when no one was watching. There is one psalm I always return to. One that carries the promise of divine shelter. Psalm 91. It says, He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. Every word of that psalm is a fortress. Recite it, not as superstition, but as covenant. Because when the darkness descends, it will not just be about surviving. It will be about abiding in that secret place. The place where light still lives, untouched by the world's trembling. And so I ask you, quietly but urgently, are you spiritually ready for a time when light itself will be tested? When all the things you thought you needed, your screens, your voices, your distractions, are stripped away, and only your soul remains before God. Have you built that inner flame? Have you tended it daily with prayer, with humility, with love? Because that flame will be your only lamp when the world forgets the sun. Do not wait for fear to move you. Let longing move you. Longing for peace. Longing for truth. Longing for the presence that never leaves, even when every other light fades. I have met people across the world who say they feel it, a strange restlessness, as if something is drawing near. They can't explain it, but it hums beneath the surface of their days. A subtle trembling, like the earth waiting for rain. Perhaps you've felt it too. That quiet knowing that time is not what it used to be. That the days feel shorter. That the nights whisper differently. If you've ever felt that strange stirring in your spirit, that silent awareness that something is coming, tell me in the comments below. You are not alone. We are many, scattered across the world, connected not by sight, but by soul. Each of us sensing the same call, the same invitation. To return. To prepare. To awaken before the dawn. And remember this, dear friend. Preparation is not about storing candles or sealing windows. Those things matter, yes, but they are symbols of something deeper. The real preparation happens in the heart. Every prayer is a window sealed. Every act of forgiveness, a door closed against the enemy. Every confession, a candle lit. You are building your refuge, not in walls, but in faith. Because when the darkness comes, only what is of God will endure. And yet, and this is the beauty of it, when you prepare your heart, you will not fear the night. You will feel its weight, yes, but also its purpose. You will see that even the darkness is a servant of light, a womb from which dawn is born. So begin now. Begin where you are. You don't need to be perfect, just willing. You don't need to know everything. Just trust. Speak to God tonight as you would to a friend. Tell Him your fears. Tell Him your hopes. Ask Him to cleanse what is heavy and strengthen what is weak. And He will. He always does. Because the same God who parted the Red Sea, who guided His children through night by fire, He has not changed. He still protects. He still redeems. He still calls your name, even now. So when you see the skies dim, when the winds pause, when the signs begin to stir, you will not panic. You will recognize it. You will remember these words. And you will whisper, I am ready. Ready not because you are fearless, but because you are faithful. Ready because you have kept your candle lit. Ready because your soul knows the sound of its shepherd's voice. When the world speaks of the 3 days of darkness, they imagine terror. They imagine wrath, punishment, and despair. But those who have listened with the heart, truly listened, know that it is not a story of destruction. It is a story of mercy hidden beneath shadow. The darkness, dear friend, is not the end. It is the cleansing before the dawn. It is not God's rage. It is His remedy. A sacred pause. A holy reset. A divine silence before creation begins to sing again. You see, from the beginning of time, God has used darkness not as a weapon, but as a womb. Every rebirth begins there. Every revelation first hides in shadow before it rises in light. In the beginning, before there was day or night, the Spirit of God hovered over the deep, and darkness covered the face of the waters. Creation did not begin in brightness. It began in obscurity. The voice that said, "Let there be light," did not speak into light, it spoke into darkness. And that is the pattern of redemption. We fear the night because we do not understand its purpose. But to God, darkness is not evil. It is the canvas on which He paints renewal. Listen to the prophet Malachi. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise, with healing in His wings. What a mystery! The same fire that consumes also heals. The same darkness that blinds also births sight. The same silence that feels like abandonment becomes the place of encounter. The 3 days of darkness is not a punishment. It is purification, not of the earth alone, but of hearts. A cleansing of what has grown corrupt. A washing away of false light so that true light may return. Think of it. When a seed is buried in the soil, it is swallowed by darkness. It disappears beneath the surface, unseen, forgotten. And yet that is where life begins. Roots form where eyes cannot see. Transformation happens where no light reaches. The world, too, must be buried before it can bloom again. Humanity, like that seed, must enter its night of silence. Not to die, but to awaken. To shed the husk of pride and illusion and be reborn into humility, into truth. That is the hidden mercy. God allowing His creation to rest, even to weep, so that it might breathe again. Do you remember Calvary? The day the world turned black at noon? When even the sun could not bear to watch love crucified. For 3 hours, darkness covered the earth. Not as punishment, but as witness. Creation itself bowed in mourning as the Son of God hung between heaven and earth. And yet, in that darkness, the greatest light the world has ever known was being born. Even the Son of God hung in darkness before resurrection. He descended into the tomb, into the silence, into the stillness where no heartbeat remained. And there, in the quiet womb of the earth, salvation began to move. So if the world must again descend into shadow, remember, it is not the end. It is the sacred pattern repeating. Genesis, Calvary, Revelation, birth, death, renewal. I often think of how gently God resets creation. He does not always shout. Sometimes, He simply withdraws the light, not to destroy, but to draw our eyes inward. When there is no sun, we are forced to look for the flame within. That is why this prophecy matters. It is not merely a warning of judgment. It is an invitation to intimacy. A call to rediscover the secret place within the soul where heaven still burns quietly. When all goes dark outside, the light within becomes visible, or it vanishes. That is the test. That is the mercy. Because in those days when the world is stripped of illusion, we will finally see who we truly are. What light we carried, what shadows we fed, what truth we ignored. And though it will be painful, it will also be pure. Because pain that purifies is love in disguise. Do you understand now? The darkness is not God turning away from man. It is God turning man back to Himself. It is the Father whispering, "Rest. Cease your noise. I must heal you now." And so He stills the earth. He silences the skies. He closes the eyes of the world, that the heart might finally see. That is mercy. Hidden, yes, but radiant beneath the veil. I sometimes imagine what it will feel like, that first moment after. When the third day breaks. When light returns not as morning, but as miracle. When every color seems new, and every sound carries the echo of grace. Those who survive will not merely live. They will remember. They will look at the sky and whisper, "He has restored us." They will understand that even in the night, He never left. That even in silence, He was singing. That even in death, He was preparing resurrection. Because the God of Genesis is the God of Calvary. And the God of Calvary is the God of Revelation. He never changes. Only our understanding does. So when you hear the word darkness, do not tremble. Meditate. Ask not, "Why would God allow this?" Ask instead, "What light does He wish to reveal through this?" When you are tested, remember, the same fire that refines gold does not destroy it. The same night that hides the stars does not erase them. It makes them visible. You and I, we were made for this time. Not to fear it but to witness it. To walk through the shadow knowing that the dawn is certain. To trust that the hidden mercy of God is greater than the chaos of men. Perhaps that is why this message found you. Perhaps your soul needed to hear that darkness is not your enemy. That even your own trials, your silent seasons, your lonely nights, they were not punishments. They were preparations. You have been in training for light. The same God who allows the night also promises the sunrise. The same hand that covers you in shadow will lift the veil in due time. So do not despair. Do not mistake delay for abandonment. Every silence is sacred if it leads you back to Him. There is a secret written in every night sky. That even when the sun is gone, the universe still glows. Tiny embers, scattered like whispers of hope. Proof that the light is never truly gone. And so it shall be. When the world grows silent, when all human noise fades, there will remain that hidden mercy. steady, luminous, waiting to reveal itself in the hearts that trusted through the dark. So let it be known. The 3 days of darkness is not the wrath of a cruel God, but the mercy of a loving one. It is the pause between heartbeats, the moment before resurrection. It is the shadow that precedes the sunrise of righteousness, the silence before the song of renewal. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven. Yes, the proud will fall. Yes, the false will fade. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise, with healing in his wings. Healing, not harm. Mercy, not ruin. Light, not loss. And when that light rises, it will not only heal the world, it will heal you. All your nights of waiting, all your seasons of silence, all your hidden prayers, they will not have been in vain. Because even now, even in this very moment, the mercy is already unfolding. Quietly, patiently, like dawn just beyond the horizon. You need only hold your flame. You need only stay awake. You need only trust that God's silence is never absence. The darkness will pass. The light will return. And those who understood the mercy hidden within the night, they will rise renewed. Not as survivors, but as witnesses. Witnesses of love that conquered shadow. Witnesses of mercy that never died. The 3 days of darkness, my friend, is not only a prophecy of the sky, it is a prophecy of the soul. Before it comes upon the earth, it has already come upon hearts. Before the sun hides its face, light has already begun to dim within men. Perhaps it has already begun. Not the one written in Scripture but the one we never speak of. The quiet eclipse within us. The unseen night in our spirits. The darkness that has slowly crept through a world that has forgotten how to pray. When I travel, from the crowded cities to the silent hills, I feel it. A heaviness in the air. An emptiness that technology cannot fill. We scroll endlessly, we speak constantly, we consume without hunger. And yet the soul starves. There is so much light around us, screens glowing day and night. And yet, we have never felt more blind. The prophets spoke of a physical night that would cover the world. But what if the true night is already here? Not in the skies, but in our hearts. A darkness not of the sun, but of spirit? Ask yourself, quietly, honestly, what is your inner light? What flame still burns in the hidden chamber of your soul when all else is stripped away? Is it faith? Is it love? Is it mercy? Or pride disguised as righteousness? What if the lights of this world went out tomorrow? What if there were no more voices, no more screens, no more noise to drown the ache? What would remain inside you? Would you find peace there, or panic? You see, the 3 days of darkness is not just an event to be feared. It is a mirror held up to our age. It asks us to see the shadows we've made peace with. To recognize that perhaps, long before the stars go out, humanity has already entered its night. Look around. Truth has become negotiable. Morality has become a matter of opinion. We are entertained by violence, numb to holiness, and restless even in abundance. We build towers higher than Babel, yet our hearts grow smaller. We whisper prayers in public as if they were crimes, but shout our disbelief with pride. We fear being cancelled more than being condemned. We chase connection online, but lose communion with God. Tell me, if that isn't darkness, what is? There was a time when the night reminded us to rest, to reflect, to dream. Now it has become something we resist. We flood it with artificial suns, neon and noise, afraid of what silence might reveal. But the soul needs night. Without it we forget who we are. Without stillness, we cannot hear the whisper of eternity. Maybe that's why the prophecy was given, to awaken us. To remind us that not all darkness is punishment. Some darkness is permission. Permission to pause. To return. To rediscover the sacred rhythm of light and shadow, of speaking and listening, of doing and being. I remember standing once in the mountains of Greece, where the monasteries cling to the cliffs like prayers carved in stone. There was no electricity that night, only the wind and the stars. The silence felt alive. And for the first time, I understood what the ancient mystics meant when they said that God speaks in absence. It is not always the thunder or the vision that awakens the soul. It is the void. The vast stillness that makes us remember that we are small, and yet seen, fragile, and yet loved. That is the lesson hidden within the prophecy. Not that the world will end, but that the world must pause to remember who made it. Ask yourself again. What fears hide in your shadow? What truth have you buried under noise? What would happen if God turned off every distraction until only your soul remained? Bare, honest, unmasked? Would you recognize yourself? Would you like what you see? Or would you tremble at how dim the flame has become? Perhaps this is the true purpose of the 3 days of darkness. To show us that we have lived too long pretending light means noise, and peace means pleasure. To make us see that the brightest screens still leave the heart in shadow. And maybe, just maybe, God allows this prophetic warning not to destroy the world, but to restore it, one soul at a time. Beginning with you. The darkness will not come uninvited. It has been preparing itself for generations. Through greed, through pride, through indifference. It began when we stopped teaching children to pray. When we stopped believing in truth. When we laughed at holiness and glorified sin. Every act of cruelty, every compromise, every moment we chose comfort over conscience. Those were small candles being blown out. One by one. Until now, we live in a world dimly lit by human reason, but void of divine wisdom. We call it progress. But progress without God is not light. It's illusion. So what can we do? We can begin again. We can light one flame at a time. Within ourselves, within our homes, within our words. Because if the prophecy tells us that blessed candles will be the only light, perhaps it is also telling us something deeper. That the light of faith, burning in a single heart, can pierce any darkness. Your kindness is a candle. Your prayer is a candle. Your forgiveness is a candle. And together, they can keep the night at bay. If you've ever felt that strange restlessness, that quiet knowing that something is shifting in the world, that the air feels heavier, the days shorter, the noise louder, you are not alone. You are sensing what prophets felt before the flood. What disciples felt before the cross. What creation feels before rebirth. It's not fear, it's calling. The Spirit whispering. Prepare. Not by stocking shelves, but by cleansing hearts. Not by hiding in panic, but by standing in faith. The 3 days of darkness is not merely coming. It is already teaching. Every trial, every silence, every storm in your life is a rehearsal for trust. The question is not whether the world will endure, but whether your flame will. So ask again. What kind of light lives in your soul when the world goes dark? Is it borrowed, or born of truth? Does it flicker only when seen by others? Or does it burn even when no one is watching? If the prophecy is true, then those who carry love, faith, and humility will not fear the dark. Because they have already conquered it within. The lesson of the darkness is simple. To bring us back to light. To remind us that faith is not proven in sunshine, but in shadow. That love is not loud, but steadfast. That God does not abandon His creation. He refines it. There will come a morning, like no other morning before it. A silence before the birds remember their songs. A stillness before the air dares to move again. The world will have held its breath for 3 nights. And then, the first ray of light will pierce the veil. It will not be the old sunlight. It will not rise as it once did. It will be gentler, deeper, alive. A light that knows what darkness is. A light that has passed through sorrow and come out sanctified. Those who endured, who prayed, who believed, who refused to let their candles die. They will see it. They will step out, trembling, into a world washed clean by tears unseen. And the air itself will seem reborn. The prophecy speaks of this, the dawn after the darkness. Not as a dream but as a promise. A new earth. A renewed creation. A humanity purified by trial, made humble by silence, made holy by survival. For 3 days, the world will be still. But on the 4th, light will return. Not just to the sky but to the soul. And in that moment, Scripture will unfold before the eyes of the faithful. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. And there shall be no more death. Neither sorrow nor crying. Neither shall there be any more pain. For the former things are passed away. Revelation 21 verse 4. Imagine it with me. You step outside. The ground beneath your feet feels soft, as if it remembers. The trees stand quiet, dripping with dew, their leaves shimmering in gold. The rivers move slower, reverent, as if carrying secrets back to the sea. The sky, oh the sky, it will not be blue but something deeper. A color that no human tongue has ever named. And in that first breath of morning, the survivors will understand. They will remember the silence. They will remember the shadows. And they will know that even when all seemed lost, love had been working all along. Those who kept faith will emerge into a new light. Not the light of electricity or knowledge or pride, but the light of truth. The light that can only come from having been tested, and still believing. Their faces will shine with something invisible. Not glory, but peace. The kind of peace that only comes after fire, after loss, after surrender. And children will ask their mothers, "Was it real, Mama?" The darkness. And the mothers will smile softly, touching their hearts and say, "Yes, my child." But God was closer in that darkness than he ever was in our days of light. There will be no boasting then. No arrogance. No race, no class, no pride. Because all will have wept. All will have waited. All will have seen that no man can buy sunrise. No nation can summon dawn. And the humble shall inherit the earth. For they were the ones who trusted through the night. I sometimes wonder what sound the first sunrise will make. Will it be quiet? Or will the heavens themselves sing? Perhaps we will hear the sound of distant choirs. Not of men but of angels. Rejoicing that creation has come full circle. The garden restored. The curse reversed. The world reborn not in might, but in mercy. In that day, the prophecies will not be mysteries anymore. They will be memories. We will look back and say, "He warned us, not to frighten us but to ready us." We will understand that judgment was never the end. It was the beginning of healing. And the earth will know peace again. The wars will cease. The air will clear. Even the animals, they say, will walk without fear. Because creation will feel it. That something ancient has been healed. The new dawn will not erase what came before. It will sanctify it. The scars will remain, but they will no longer speak of pain. They will speak of victory. Every tear shed in those nights will have become a seed. And from those seeds, faith will bloom again. Churches will be rebuilt not with pride, but with prayer. People will greet strangers with reverence, because they will know how fragile breath is. And in every corner of the world, those who remember will whisper the same truth. We are alive. And he was faithful. There will be light again. But it will not be like before. This light will know what it means to lose everything, and still rise. It will be a holy light, born from suffering, carrying the memory of every candle that refused to go out. That, my dear friend, is the meaning of redemption. Not that we escape the night, but that we emerge from it transformed. When I imagine that dawn, I see people stepping out of their homes slowly, hands shielding their eyes from the brilliance, neighbors embracing like family, old enemies forgiving without words, tears flowing not from fear, but relief. And the wind, gentle now, carrying one message over the whole earth. Behold, I make all things new. If you are still here, still listening, still watching this far into the message, then perhaps you were meant to. Perhaps this word found you not by accident, but by alignment. Because maybe, just maybe, the light of the new dawn begins inside you. Before the world is renewed, your heart must be. Before the skies clear, your soul must. Before the prophecy unfolds, your faith must awaken. You don't have to wait for the sun to vanish to start preparing. Begin now, in prayer, in compassion, in truth. Every act of kindness is a sunrise. Every moment of forgiveness is a dawn. Every time you choose faith over fear, the darkness retreats a little more. If you are still here watching, if your heart is still open, type in the comments, "I choose the light." Let this space, this moment, be filled with faith, not fear. Let it be a gathering of souls who choose love, even in the shadow, who choose mercy, even in confusion, who choose light, even in the waiting. Because when that dawn comes, and it will come, it will search for hearts that have already said yes. And I pray yours will be one of them. Hold on, my friend. Keep your candle burning. The night is long, but the dawn is certain. And when it comes, you will understand why the darkness had to be. Because only those who walk through night can truly recognize the morning. This is Michelle Burton. Thank you for staying with me in the dark, and for believing with me that the light will return. Until next time, keep your soul awake, keep your faith steady, and never forget, the dawn always belongs to those who never stopped hoping for it. And now, we come to the end of this long journey together. A journey through shadow and light, through prophecy and promise, through the trembling chambers of the human soul. We have walked together through the whispers of the ancients, heard the warnings spoken by prophets and visionaries, felt the chill of the approaching night. We have seen what it means when heaven sends signs, when the moon bleeds, when the earth groans, when hearts grow restless. We have stood at the threshold of darkness, listened to the silence before it descends, imagined the sealed doors, the flickering blessed candles, the voices outside that test the faithful. And through it all, we have searched not for fear, but for meaning. Because the 3 days of darkness, whether it unfolds across the heavens, or quietly inside the heart, is not merely a warning. It is a revelation. It is God whispering to a world that has forgotten how to listen. Come back to me. The darkness is not the end. It is the mercy before the dawn. It is the divine pause before rebirth. It is heaven's way of pressing the reset of creation. Not to destroy, but to renew. We spoke of the signs, and we spoke of the preparation, the need for repentance, for confession, for the small radiant acts of mercy that can pierce even the deepest night. We spoke of Psalm 91, that promise of shelter under the shadow of his wings. We spoke of how every heart must become an altar, every home a sanctuary, every breath a prayer. And then we reached the promise, the dawn after, the world reborn, the faces lifted toward a light that remembers the night. We saw how every soul that endured would rise, not untouched, but transformed, not innocent, but redeemed. And now, as the story folds into silence, I ask you to remember one truth, the one thread that has run through every word, every vision, every warning. The darkness is never the final word. Whether the prophecy comes as 3 nights upon the world, or as 3 years of trial in your life, the purpose remains the same: to awaken the sleeping soul, to remind us that comfort is not salvation, to remind us that faith, when untested, is fragile, and that love, when held in the dark, becomes eternal. You see, the real 3 days of darkness are not just written in books of prophecy. They unfold in the unseen places, in hospital rooms where hope flickers, in lonely hearts where prayer feels unanswered, in nations where truth is drowned by noise, in every person who has ever said, "God, where are you?" and heard only silence. That silence is the first night. But hold on through it. For dawn always belongs to those who refuse to give up. Maybe this prophecy is not just about the world ending. Maybe it's about you beginning again. Maybe it's about all of us finding our way back home through the valley of shadow. Maybe the Lord allows darkness not to punish, but to teach us to see with spiritual eyes, to remind us that light, true light, does not come from the sun, but from within. So tonight, as you finish hearing this message, as the noise of the world begins to return, I ask you, gently, sincerely, to keep one thing alive inside you, your flame. Because when the world goes dark, it will not be the stars or the governments or the screens that save us. It will be the quiet light burning in the hearts of those who believe. It will be the prayer whispered in the smallest room, the kindness offered in secret, the forgiveness given when it costs everything. That is the light that survives. That is the light that cannot be extinguished. And when that final night comes, whether as prophecy or as personal trial, remember this: you are not abandoned. You are being awakened. The Lord does not leave his children in the dark. He leads them through it. And on the other side of every shadow, there is always sunrise. So hold fast, my friend. Keep your heart steady. And never forget, when the world goes dark, let your heart be the candle. Let it burn with love. Let it burn with prayer. Let it burn with a quiet courage that says, "I still believe." Because faith is not proven in the daylight. It is proven in the night. And you were born for this hour. This is Michelle Burton. Thank you for walking with me through the shadow and the light. May your days be gentle. Your nights be watchful. and your soul ever radiant with the fire of hope. Until we meet again, stay awake, stay faithful, and remember, the dawn is closer than you think. My dear friend, if you've walked with me through this entire journey, through the shadow, through the stillness, through the whisper of prophecy, then something inside you has already been touched. Because truth always leaves a trace. The 3 days of darkness. It isn't just a story about the end of the world. It's a message about the awakening of the soul. And if your heart stirred, even for a moment, that means the Spirit has whispered something meant only for you. Maybe it's a call to prepare. Maybe it's a call to forgive. Maybe it's a reminder that you are the keeper of your own flame. Whatever it is, don't let it fade when the video ends. Carry it. Live it. Be it. Now, I want to ask something of you. Not for me, but for the message itself. If there is someone in your life, a friend, a parent, a child, someone who's losing faith, someone who's forgotten that there is light beyond despair, share this with them. Not to frighten them, but to awaken them. You never know what a single message can do for a weary heart. Sometimes one spark, just one, can light a whole night. And I want to hear from you too. Tell me in the comments. What are your thoughts about these 3 days of darkness? Have you felt that strange stirring in your spirit? That quiet knowing that something is drawing near? What verses strengthen you when fear comes knocking? Maybe it's Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Or Isaiah 41 verse 10. Fear not, for I am with thee. Whatever words hold you upright in the dark, write them below. Because every comment becomes a flame. And together, we create a constellation of light across this vast, trembling world. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Near Death Diaries. Not because it's just another channel, but because this space is sacred ground. Here we explore the edge between life and eternity. Here, we share testimonies that remind us that death is not the end. It's a doorway. Here, every story becomes a prayer. And every listener becomes part of a silent fellowship of souls seeking truth. So, click subscribe. Turn on the notifications. Because the next story might be the one that speaks directly to your spirit. And when it does, I want you to be ready. Now, before we part, I want to leave you with something more than words. A blessing, whispered not from my mouth, but from the quiet place within me that still believes in miracles. Close your eyes with me for a moment. Take a breath. Wherever you are, in your room, on your journey, behind a screen, or beneath the weight of something unseen. Hear this. May your light never fade. May your heart never lose its rhythm of faith. May your home be wrapped in peace when the winds rise and the world trembles. May you walk through your nights without fear, knowing that no darkness is eternal. And when the morning comes, may you stand among those who never stopped believing. May you rise renewed, and remember that the smallest light is still enough to shatter the deepest night. This is Michelle Burton. And from the quiet corners of my soul to yours, thank you for listening. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for walking this road of revelation with me. Until next time, my dear friends, stay awake, stay faithful, and stay in the light.